Thank you for inviting myself, Joseph, and my colleague Casey back here to touch more on the ethical side of the question of whether Tiki Toys, as a maker of children's toys, should acquire Zynga Games, which is a maker of video games, primarily of non-violent content, but also some with some violent content. And what we would like to remind you of from yesterday is that looking at it from the perspective of business and legal and some ethical, we hopefully helped to convey our opinions to you that in fact it would be a move that Tiki Toys could make in accord with its values. But let's delve a little bit deeper into the ethical aspect of it to explore what the values of Tiki Toys are and how this aligns. So of course, as you remember, the mission of Tiki Toys that drives what our values are is through play to equip parents to foster growth and creative development. And keeping in mind what these values are, we look at this question of acquiring this video game maker, and we determine in fact that it is something that Tiki Toys can do, not only in alignment with its values, but actually that the acquisition presents a tremendous ethical opportunity to demonstrate ethical leadership in an industry, the video game industry, that sorely needs the kind of leadership that a company like Tiki Toys can provide. And to arrive at this conclusion, we have looked at two methods of ethical analysis and sort of combined the two. The first being the four ethical avenues that some of you might be familiar with of interests, rights, duties, and virtues. And all this simply is a formalization of historical patterns of ethical analysis. Interests and rights being two paths to travel down to look at the individualistic needs at play. Duties being a path to walk down to look at something beyond oneself. And virtues being something to look at about the implications for the character and the culture of an organization and the individuals that it serves. And we combined this method of analysis with the stakeholder model that some of you might be familiar with as well. And from our point of view, the stakeholders at issue here for Tiki Toys are shareholders, of course, but also employees, customers, and for our younger customers, their parents, as well as a fourth stakeholder, and the community at large. And we combined these two methods of analysis and looked at a few key principles at play when we're talking about acquiring a maker of violent video games. And the first principle that we look at is prudently considering opportunities and risks to child development. Child development being at the very core of what Tiki Toys is all about, to foster growth and creative development, to pursue this mission and in the process earn a profit. And the way we look at that from this four ethical avenues approach, looking at the interests of customers and the community as a stakeholder, that we look at the opportunity presented here. The opportunities not only to enhance our offerings of physical toys with interactive toys, but also to look at the opportunity, the ethical opportunity to provide industry leadership on issues that the video game industry is not currently addressing. But on the flip side is the risks involved to that mission. And there we have an ongoing debate about violent content in video games and whether that leads to aggressive behavior. And here let's think in terms of not only the interests of our customers and the community, but also the virtues of promoting character and culture. And we need to be concerned about these risks, about links to aggression, as well as a second concern, and that is links to addiction of violent video games. And so keeping in mind these opportunities and risks, we do believe that we can leverage those opportunities and not only mitigate those risks, but overcome them in such a way that it provides an opportunity, an ethical opportunity to be a leader in the video game industry. So moving from child development, let's look at a second principle, and that is to respect consumer freedom. We believe that in a free market system, there is the rights, one of those four avenues, the rights of consumers to be able to make choices that they deem appropriate. And we certainly wish to respect that. But there is also another flip side to the issue of freedom, and that is freedom from addiction. And addiction being an issue of concern in the video game industry, we want to make sure that we respect the rights of consumers to not be sold goods that are going to be made addicting, limiting their freedom in that respect. But also thinking of it in terms of duties, that other ethical avenue, that we really have a duty to customers as well as the community at large to address such concerns. So as we look at the opportunities and risks for child development, as well as the respect for consumer freedom, we travel along those four ethical avenues with the whole goal of that model being to arrive at a midpoint of moral insight. Moral insight to determine what the ethical course of action could be. And what we come to is that the conclusion that not only does this acquisition make good financial sense and is in accord with the law, but also that it presents a tremendous opportunity, an ethical opportunity, to be a leader in the video game industry as an ethical company that addresses the issues of aggression and addiction in video games, as the industry is currently not doing. And so to delve further into our recommendations in this and other respects, I'm going to turn it over to Casey.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you again, board, for meeting with us for a second time. Now that Joe has gone through our ethical analysis, I'll move forward into our recommendations, starting first with the acquisition of Zynga Games, and then moving into our recommendations to demonstrate ethical industry leadership by addressing the issues of aggression and addiction. That is, to become a pioneer in an industry that does not currently address these issues. Now, first I'll start with what this acquisition will actually look like. Our company, Tiki Toys, will be the parent company. Within Tiki Toys, we recommend creating a kids video game division. We also recommend acquiring Zynga Games as a wholly owned subsidiary. The reasoning behind this acquisition is to adjust Zynga Games' existing culture to make it more ethical, and then to position it as an ethical leader using its existing brand. Now, our second recommendation is to demonstrate ethical industry leadership through addressing aggression and addiction. First, in terms of aggression, we recommend setting acceptable content standards and tying negative actions to negative consequences. So in a typical video game, if you were to kill your enemy, you get 1,000 points. If you were to kill an innocent bystander, you get 1,000 points. By tying negative consequences to negative actions, the consequences within a video game would be more like real-life consequences. So the impact of killing an innocent bystander would be negative instead of that positive of getting additional points. Now, we recommend that for existing Zynga games, that we rewrite the software coding in order to create this tie. This is a significant opportunity for Tiki Toys because this isn't done in the industry. There's no link between negative actions and negative consequences. So this could be a valuable decision both ethically and economically. Now, for those games that cannot be redeemed, where we cannot rewrite the software, we recommend divesting upon acquisition. Our second recommendation in terms of demonstrating ethical industry leadership is to address the issue of video game addiction. Now, we recommend working with psychological associations to not only study addiction, but to also minimize the impact of addicting triggers within our video games. So to recap our recommendations, our first is to acquire Zynga Games and create a kids video game division. Our second recommendation is to become an ethical industry leader in addressing aggression and addiction. Now, in conclusion, Tiki Toys has the mission to equip parents to foster creative development and growth through play. We believe that by using these recommendations, the acquisition of Zynga Games could further this mission.